The year was 1984. Big hair was in for both men and women. The Terminator hit the big screen and Miami Vice debuted on television. Michael Jackson released the hit Thriller, and oh yeah, it's also the year I was born. At the same time, a company called Sig released a pistol that they designed to enter the XM9 pistol competition for the US military, the Sig P226. Well, today I'm going to prove that the 80s never truly went out of style as I review this 40th anniversary edition of the original P226. Now, before we get started, where did I get this gun? Sig did send it to me at no cost for me to review. I found that a little interesting when they first reached out to me to see if I wanted to review the pistol, because they know, number one, that I'm a 1911, 2011 guy. That's my go-to. That's all I'm going to carry. And number two, that I work for 1911 and 2011 companies, but they knew that. They also knew that the Beretta 92 was my, if the 1911 didn't exist gun, my number 2 gun, and they wanted to see if they could unseat that. And I wanted this 40th anniversary edition because it goes back to the original gun that was presented in the XM9 competition and gives me a good idea of what the guns were like back then. There are some differences, and we'll cover that in a second. So I got it for free. It's not going to influence my opinion, because you know that I am a 1911, 2011 junkie. We're just going to talk about this kind of on its own as a other gun that's out there. So let's do a brief history of the 226. There's paperwork that comes in this box that kind of goes over that for you, which is great. But the Sig 226 was developed from the P220 to satisfy the requirements of the XM9 military competition, where the US military was trying to streamline all the handguns into one platform among all the different branches of the military. This started out because the most branches were using 1911s primarily. However, some branches like the Air Force had up to 28 different handguns in various different calibers in their inventory, and it was just getting to be too ungainly. So they wanted a double stack 9mm pistol. The competition actually started with the Joint Service Pistol Competition. I don't know, I'll put it back below, in the late 70s. It ended up being a total clusterfuck, because that's what happens when the military does things, and did not end with a winner. They did go to the XM9 competition in the 80s in 1984, and the Beretta 92 won that contract versus the Sig 226. These were the two guns that were made it all the way through the XM9, and Beretta ended up beating the bid in a very interesting story. Well, we'll have a whole video on why I think this gun actually should have won over the Beretta 92, but that's for a later topic. Basics of this gun: it is a double action, single action pistol, meaning the first trigger is double action, the first trigger pull, which is going to move the hammer back. It is hammer operated, and that is about a 12-pound trigger, and it's actually very, very clean. And then the hammer goes off and the round is fired. Once the pistol cycles, it is single action, which is a shorter reset and about a 4.5-pound trigger pull to go from there. It also does not have a safety. It is drop safe. It does have a firing pin block that's in there to make it drop safe. However, the main safety is this decocker lever here. So you drop the hammer with the decocker, round is not going to go off. That first 12-pound trigger pull is meant to be a safety from accidental discharge. Now, the 226 has evolved over the years and has been adopted by many different police forces and military branches across the world. In fact, the Navy SEALs actually kicked the M9 to the curb. We'll talk about that in another video, for a version of the Sig 226 called the Mark 25 that they used for decades very, very reliably. So this gun has proven itself over the last 40 years to be a good performing pistol, to be reliable, and something that a lot of police officers and military units do trust their lives to. So Sig released this 40th anniversary 226 to be as close to the original as possible. I like this because I'm really into retro looks. The retro market is actually really big in handguns and rifles these days. I've got Gordon clones. At ACW, we did, Musoc clones. There's a lot of, not clones, but resto mods. So I'm a big fan of doing homage pistols to the older guns. So this is based pretty closely on the West Germany guns that were made back in the early and mid 80s. There's just a few differences. I'll cover that in a second. First off, the slide. The serrations and this ball cut up front match pretty close. The original slides were stamped. These are CNC machined. I personally would prefer a CNC machine slide over a stamp slide, so I do see that as an improvement. The tritium sights, I don't know if the original guns had tritium sights, but they were slightly different in design than these sights here. Also, the grip module was plastic on the original gun. These Hogue guns have an aluminum grip with a little bit more of a grippy texture. On this side of the gun, on the left side, the takedown lever is a little bit different. This is what's more commonly used. They didn't go back and make a throwback takedown lever. The trigger, I'm told, is improved from the original gun. So this is not going to be the original trigger pull that they had, and it's actually very nice. So I would like to get a West German gun to see what they felt like, because this feels fantastic. Also, the mag catch on this gun is ambidextrous, meaning you can swap it from the left to the right side. I don't believe the original guns were ambidextrous. If I'm wrong, somebody's definitely going to point that out in the comments. But overall, this is a good approximation of what those guns originally were. And it's just got some upgrades to make it a little bit more modern to what equipment is today. So let's talk about the good. The good on this gun, there's actually a lot. I'm going to start with the trigger. And this is a fantastic double action, single action trigger. That 12-pound pull is very smooth. There's no hitches in it. And it does have a very noticeable wall right at the end. So if you wanted to prep your trigger, you could prep it very easily and then just get that last little squeeze to get it off. And the single action at 4.5 pounds, the travel is very minimal, and it is very, very predictable to shoot. So that is fantastic. The next thing I want to talk about is recoil. People have complained about bore axis, and this is a higher bore axis pistol, meaning the height of the bore over where your hand is and the rotation. They say that the higher this bore, the more the gun is going to recoil. Yes and no. Sometimes it's, a portion of that is going to be the reciprocating mass of the slide. But I'm going to tell you right now, this had no more recoil than a Beretta 92. It does have slightly more recoil than a 1911 or 2011, that's for sure. But anyone who complains about bore axis on a 9mm pistol really does need to work on their grip strength, because this is not a bad gun from bore axis. The recoil is completely manageable. It is a very, and I was shooting 124 grain NATO. The recoil is very manageable using military spec rounds. It shoots great. The decocker, I just think is kind of cool from an old school, 80s, 70s, 80s design vibe. That's, I don't know. I like it. Is it the way I want to carry a gun? If I suppose, double action, if that's the only option, yes. But I do like having a decocker. I think it's pretty cool. Next is the paperwork and the box. This is a retro box. They said that this was the packaging the gun came with in 1984. I was a baby, so I don't know, and I'm not a Sig fanboy, so I don't know what the original boxes look like, but cool. I like having retro boxes and retro paperwork. They do have some of the original diagrams from the 80s that they digitized, so they went into the archives for the diagrams to put that in there. There's a whole history of the 226 in there, another flyer with a history of the 226, which actually comes in pretty handy for someone like me who doesn't really know a lot about the history of Sig Sauer. And it is laser cut foam with little red felt on top. If this is how it came in the 80s, this is actually, for the 80s, this is pretty good packaging. So retro stuff, I'm a big fan of retro stuff, very, very cool. And also this reversible mag catch. Like I said, the mag catch, I don't believe is what was available in 1984, the ambidextrous mag catch, but having some ambi touches is nice. I do find it odd, though, that the slide release, or slide stop, as I like to call it in 1911 world, is only on the left side of the gun. An ambidextrous slide stop would have made more sense with an ambi mag catch. But I'm a righty, so I don't give a shit about lefty problems anyway. And honestly, shooting this gun makes me wonder why Sig developed the 320 in the first place. I have had a Sig 320. I had one of the first generation ones that had that heavy trigger problem that had drop issues. And it was, at the time when I got it, it was, in my mind, an okay gun, but as time went on, the triggers, just the overall, ergonomics of the gun, I really do not like anything about the 320 series of pistol at all. And the M17, M18 does nothing for me. It's not my cup of tea. Not interested in 320s at all. And after shooting this gun and realizing how much better this gun shoots than any 320 that I've ever shot, makes me wonder why Sig even, went into developing the 320, why it even exists. Now, I know striker fire is all the rage, and that's like what you have to have is a striker fired modular gun and have something you can make cheaper. Yes, the 320 is cheaper, and it is more modular, but the 226 is better. I'm going to keep this gun forever because it's cool, and also because it's something that I would actually shoot. There's not a 320 that exists that I would actually shoot. So P226, much better than the 320. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't problems. There's drawbacks to every single gun. My main complaint is the location of this slide stop. I use a modern 1911 grip, which is thumb over safety. On this gun, that puts me right on the slide stop. So I do override the slide stop. And do not get last round hold open. Now, I don't care that much about last round hold open because if you're competition shooting, you never want to go to slide lock anyways. You want to do, I guess you call it an admin reload. You want to top off in between targets so you're not wasting time and you don't want to have to close the slide. In a gunfight, hopefully, you have enough time to do an admin reload and top off. So, last round hold open for me is not the be-all and end-all of a pistol's function. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for me personally. Now, another thing that did happen, it happened once. I only have about 500 rounds on this gun through 2 range trips. I did have 1 light strike. Could have been the ammo. Haven't had it happen since, but I did have 1 light strike when I was first shooting the gun. And the last negative I would say to this gun is the price. I believe they're right around $1,200. Considering you can get an actual West German gun for between $700 and $900, I see them. The $1,200 price range, I guess it makes sense. It is high, but the reality is, if I'm not going to totally want an original West German gun, it does work in there because it is, from all respects, a better gun than the original gun that was being produced, and it has that retro throwback. And the reality for me is, out of the normal 226 lineup, this is the only 226 I would get for those retro vibes. I don't care about having a light rail. I don't care about any ambidextrous controls, really, for me, because I am right-handed, and this is not a gun that I'm ever planning on carrying, to be honest. It's just something I want to have because of the cool factor and the historical factor. There is some significance to this gun, being that it lost the XM9 competition, but has served in a lot of different capacities over the years. The only other thing that I would say, I haven't gotten there yet, but Sig did send me a Sig 226 X5, all stainless. We'll talk about this in a few weeks after I get more time on it. So maybe this would be the only one that I would actually get. But if I'm not looking at an X5 at a race gun, this is the Sig 226 I would get, just from the retro vibes and everything that's out there. So if you're looking for a 226 and you don't want to put a light on it, I'd get the 40th anniversary edition to give you those retro vibes, that retro look, and to basically just thumb your nose at the Beretta 92. So if you're looking at it, and you want one, go get it. There's really no drawbacks to it. And down in the comments below, let me know. Do you think the 92 should have won the XM9 competition, or should the P226 have been the ultimate victor and they were shunned? However, Sig is not having any problems with military competitions these days, so you don't have to cry for them too much. So, comments below, 92 or 226, which is better? A future video coming on that soon. Thanks for watching.